Hey, welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. Yes, it is Larry Sharpe here. Monday evening, 7 p.m. So happy that you're able to join me. It's a Monday. Ask me anything as always. But you know what I always try to do? I try to give some type of thing that bothered me over the weekend or something that I thought was an interesting concept to kind of get the juices flowing. And as always, please like, comment, share. I ask you every single time. Please hook me up and make that happen. It does matter. Please make sure we can comment, and share. The thing that most people have been talking about recently, last couple of days, has been, are Americans prepared, or do they want to go back to work? You're finding a lot of small businesses act like Americans don't want to work. You're finding it becoming yet again, a political issue where it's left versus right? The left says, oh, it's because all the evil businesses are horrible and mean. And all the people on the right are going, oh, the workers are lazy. I got a feeling it's not one of those two only. Is there some of both? I think that's true, but it's probably something more here. And Michael Smerconish this weekend brought it up. And I want to go through what he talked about. He brought up a lot of good issues, and he brought even a guest on who talked about the different issues that people are dealing with. And a lot of people have been talking about this, but it is an important thing to think about. Are Americans ready to go to work? Do they want to go back to work? Should there be changes to our system? Is now the time to make the changes? Is that really an issue? Let me grab what Smerconish says. I think you'll enjoy it.
Take this job and shove it. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. The Department of
Hold on one second, guys. Let me see if I can get a little bit more volume on this, if that's possible. I'm not sure if I can or can't, but I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit more volume. Now, sometimes when I do the volume, it's not high. The video is the video. That's all I can tell you. Sometimes the videos aren't that strong. Hold on, let me see if I can grab a better one here. Sometimes the video sound is simply not as good as it could be. So let me see if I can grab this one and I'll make it the best video that I can, the best sound I can get, whatever it is, and I will kind of talk over it if it isn't high enough. All right, I think, there we go, good. And I think I got the highest I can get it. So let's hope this is good enough audio for you guys.
Take this job and shove it. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. The Department of Labor reported only 266,000 jobs were added in April, which is much lower than anticipated. And
now, I want to bring up this point here. This is an important point. 266,000 jobs created. Generally, that's not a bad thing, right? That's usually a pretty good number. But the problem is twofold. One, we've had so many people out of work, obviously. But second, they expected 1 million. So expectations critical here. This may not be as bad as people think. It might not be. It could just be some expectation.
Unemployment rate for the last month ticked up to 6.1%. You'd think the demand for employment would be higher, especially with more people getting vaccinated and parts of the country easing back restrictions.
So this is a valid point. You would think that, okay, now more and more people getting vaccinated. So the safety concerns should be less. If you were afraid, should be less. And things are opening up, which means people should be looking for more, right? They should be looking for it.
This is the front page of today's print edition of the New York Times. Tepid job growth inflames a debate over U.S. benefits. We're seeing examples play out all over the country. Job listings in sectors like manufacturing, live event production, restaurants, and construction are going unanswered, forcing companies to sweeten the pot.
Now, a lot of these jobs, if you notice, the jobs he's talking about, these are jobs that you physically have to go somewhere, right? Tough to build someone's house from your house, right? Tough to service, some money in Taco Bell if you're in your house. So these are jobs where you have to physically go someplace, right? It's a different issue. You have to go someplace.
For example, a McDonald's in Butler County, Pennsylvania, is offering a $500 bonus upon hire. A McDonald's in Florida paying people $50 just to show up for a job interview. A Sonic in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A Chicken Express in Texas sported signs on their drive-through windows warning customers to be patient with them, given that, quote, no one wants to work anymore.
Now, this is another issue, right? One of the issues here is they're giving money, right? $500 sign-on bonus. Now, if you're a worker, aren't you thinking, well, why didn't you give that before? It's an honest question, right? Now, clearly, I know if you're a small business owner, I am one. I don't want to give out an extra $500. I want to put that into my company. I want to put that into, part of the business. I want to put that in my pocket if I'm busting my rump, right? I want to do other stuff with it. Of course, I don't want to spend, right? I don't want to spend the money on a sign-up bonus, but if I have to, I will, right? So isn't there an issue that a worker could say, look, if you got the $500 to give for a sign-up bonus now, why weren't you giving me the $500 before? Or that kind of question. And I think it's an honest conversation to have. So let me grab a couple of comments. You guys are commenting a lot. You guys like this topic. Let me grab some comments now before we go, because there's more to this. And I do think it's a good conversation. I don't think it's as simple as people think. I think that's my biggest issue. I don't think it's simple as people think. Joe says, I never stopped working. Me either, Joe. I work for myself, so I had to keep changing. I had to keep shifting and adjusting what I was doing. Same idea, right? I had to. Markel says, free market. The question, is it, Markel, right? And this is the other issue. If this was just natural market pressures, right? If workers simply said, I'm not showing up unless you pay me more, and they had done this on their own, I think you're right. I think that would be an obvious answer, right? If all of a sudden workers said, look, if you don't pay me $15 an hour, I'm not showing. And all the workers like, I'm not paying. Sorry, I'm not going. You got to pay more. Then that, in my view, would be natural market forces, and you got to pay more. The labor is simply not going to take the job. Nothing wrong with that. That's freedom. I love it. My worry, Markel, is the government intervening and now putting their thumb on the scale, and it's not really free market? Right? Is it the government putting its thumb on the scale and saying, no, I'm going to give these people an opportunity to say no? Is that the difference? And I guess that's my question. And I could see how someone could say no, because the government affected both the business owners and the workers, or not. But I'm not sure I could just buy the free market if you've got government stepping in this case. So James says, I just read that Biden is stepping up cyber for our military. Maybe he listened to you talking us. Yes, I hope so. Maybe he did. I hope he did. Yes. So John says, what a surprise, a government-driven solution with unintended consequences. That never happens, John, ever. Surprise. Tom says, I'm 60 and I worked through it. I think some people did. I think some people did. Yeah. Brandon says, different question. I'll answer it, though. Larry, who's your favorite mayor of New York? The problem is the only ones I can remember, the earliest one I can actually remember is Ed Koch. I can't remember anyone before him. I mean, I think it was alive, but I don't remember them. I remember Ed Koch and forward. And I didn't like really any of the mayors, but I think the nicest guy was Ed Koch. I think he was the nicest guy. He was the most personable. I think he actually spent a lot of time talking with the people. He didn't lock himself behind anything. So, yeah, maybe him, because he was the nicest, but none of them have been great. So, yeah. Pete says, the pandemic is over. It's time for everyone to get back to work. I would like people to go back to work. I would. Jimmy says, my entire industry is still shut down. I can't even take another position or job. So, Mr. Biden, you tell me to switch careers at 51. You know, Jimmy, I want to bring this up. I'm glad you brought this up. I think that's part of it. And what I mean by that, two separate pieces to your exact point. Number one, there are people who want to go back to their old job. And their old job either doesn't exist anymore because the companies went under or are gone, or the industry is still shut down like your industry, right? So either that's happening, right? And they can't go back to their old job, and they want their old job. They want to go back to that. They were good at it. They enjoyed it. They want to go back to that. That's option one. Or option number two, I think there are people who this time off has made them rethink their career goals. And they do want to change careers at whatever age they are. I think, though, both of those things are actually happening, Jimmy. I think people are like, look, I like what I was doing. I'm going to go back to the, I'll wait. I'll wait until my company comes back or whoever, fills their shoes comes back or until the industry comes back. Then I'll get back into work. Otherwise, I'm going to wait till my career comes back. And I think others are like, I don't want to go back to my old career. I'm in school now or learning something else or doing a gig economy or I'm hustling on Uber or Lyft or something so I can figure out what my next step is because I don't want to go back to my old job. I think both are true, Jimmy. That's where I'm going to go. Pete says, of course, thank you. National debt, $28 trillion. The Shamrocker says, I got the great topic. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yes. John says, one item that's being overlooked is the media proclaiming science, but dishing fear and making COVID more of a threat than it really is. Yes, there are 25-year-olds that believe they're risking their life by going back to work. There are two parts to that, John. You've hit an important point. One of them is the fear of the 25-year-olds or whomever being very afraid that they're risking their life. And to be forward, some of you will be upset when I say this, but it's just true. The odds of someone who's healthy in their 20s being affected negatively by COVID are super slim. I mean, it does happen once, but they're super slim. Even if you get it, it doesn't hurt you that badly, and you don't even have lingering. You have lingering effects if you have a pre-existing condition. That's true. But if you're 20-something, 30-something, and you're healthy, no pre-existing conditions, the odds of you being affected by COVID are slim. Probably the odds are the same as you being affected by the flu. I mean, it is that low. But you're right. There's a bunch of fear. But it's the second piece. If you're on the fence and you're not sure, do you want to go back to work? Do you not know? Good excuse, John. Good excuse. If I'm 25 and do I want to go back to that job? Or if I'm like Jimmy, I'm like, I want to go back to my old job. Do I want to really take this other job? I want to wait for my old job. I think it's a good excuse to stay home. I think that's true. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. So let me keep going a bit.
And as concerts and live events resurrect after more than a year, the Wall Street Journal reports that roadies have taken their skills elsewhere, leaving venues worried they won't find people qualified to take their place.
There we go. So if the roadies have left, as in this specific case, right, for concerts and stuff, they've already gone someplace else. Does that mean they physically left the country and gone someplace else? Does that mean they've changed jobs? They said, you know what? I don't want to be a roadie anymore. I want to head off and I want to go do something else. And they've taken other jobs or whatever the case may be. Maybe they don't want to come back. Maybe you have a bunch of people who just don't want to go back to that field.
A restaurateur named Caleb in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, called into my radio program yesterday on Sirius XM to share his hiring struggles and how it's affecting his bottom line.
Yep.
I literally turned down reservations. I cut off all takeout. I just left so much on the table because ultimately there's no way I could have given good service with the amount of staff. But I've literally spent over $1,000 on ads with Indeed in the last month. Have an ad out for weeks and get 2 applicants. I literally have 30, 40 servers in my phone that are not working and do not want to work.
Now, there are several pieces I want to bring up here. Number one, I see that here where I live in Queens. I see a lot of restaurants, and in the restaurants, the owners and the families are working. Like, it's the owner. I haven't seen this guy working in this restaurant in literally years. And all of a sudden now I see the guy, I know he's the owner. That guy's waiting tables. That guy's in the back cooking. I mean, he's doing that stuff. I see them doing it. Mom and dad are there, and son and daughter is there, cousin, uncle. Everybody all of a sudden is working in the store now. And the thing that I think is happening, and I don't know this, but I kind of know this, a bunch of those people, they're unemployed. So they're still collecting because they're unemployed, and they're just helping out their uncle or dad or whatever the case may be. They're helping that person out and getting paid on the table if they are, and then they're still collecting their checks because that's what small businesses do. I'm not saying that specific restaurant, but that's probably happening. And so now they're not working. The other problem comes here now too. If this guy's right, and I've heard this story more than once, this is anecdotal, so it may not be the world, but I see it, right? I see it in anecdotally throughout my area where I live in Queens. It's a lot of people who, they're servers and they're like, I'm not going out to work. Why would I bust my rump and work for X dollars? And the second I start working, I lose my benefits, right? I start to lose my benefits that I'm getting. And I'm going to go out where I can only have 1/3 or 1/2 of the people. People don't have that much money. They're not going to be tipping. So they're saying, why in the world would I be taking the time to do that? Why would they work if they're going to go and they survive on tips and there's not going to be tips there because they don't have that many customers? I kind of get why they're not working. I'm clearly not happy about it. I wish everyone could go work, but I get why they wouldn't. They wouldn't want to go back. They'd rather stay home.
So it seems the labor force wields all the leverage. Let's break down some of the numbers. Those receiving unemployment benefits get $300 a week from the federal government on top of state unemployment benefits, which the Labor Department says average $318 a week.
There we go.
$618 a week in total.
In a lot of places in America, that's not a bad deal. New York City, not so awesome. But in a lot of places in America, $618 a week, it's not a bad deal.
On average, which equates to more than $15 an hour. That'll remain through September when the benefits are set to expire. Plus, of course, the 3 stimulus checks given out over the past year,
they're not bad, but they weren't
from $600 to $1,400 each. It's worth noting, too, that to receive these unemployment benefits, people haven't been required recently to prove that they're actively looking for a job. Many states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada.
So let me push back on this for a bit, too, right? I do want us to keep going here, but is this now a precursor to UBI, right? To universal basic income? Is this telling us that if we do this, that maybe people won't work, right? Maybe they won't. I mean, this is $600 a week. What's that? $2,400 a month? Is that right? So that's the cash you're getting. This is not a bad deal in a lot of places in America. Again, big city living, probably you can't do it in big city living. But we don't have to live in big cities. A lot of people only live in big cities because you can make big dollars. So if you don't want to make big dollars, it's not a bad living, right? And UBI was supposed to be $3,000 a month, even more than this. You're making $3,000 a month? I mean, maybe not the end of the world. So I think it is something to be concerned about. Let me grab some more comments. You guys are really commenting a lot. So let me grab a couple of these. If I can go up to some of these, you guys are so much. I appreciate this. Let's see here. Lance says, Reagan said it was best when he said, if you want more of something, incentivize it. If you want less of it, tax it. It shouldn't be hard for the morons in government to understand that. Missy says, I saw $100 signing bonus at Captain D's. Yeah, I think you're going to have to, right? It goes to risk, but not just risk of losing your benefits, but also risk of COVID if you're afraid. And I know some people are, to I think it was Tom's point, some people have been scared about it forever when they don't need to be scared, but some people need to be scared, right? There are people who COVID will kill, but most of the young people out there, those are not the people, right? They aren't, but there's something else. Are they afraid that all of a sudden now, particularly in like New York, where all of a sudden I start to work and then, boop, I turn and now you shut it down. Now it's 10% or 50%, or you're going to close it down again. You're going to turn the knobs, the valves and change it, and all of a sudden lose your job. And now you're off your benefits. And now you got to retry to get your benefits again. Wow. Right. There's some of that fear, I think, also. It's that too. Mr. Moffat says, if you think about it, this is the point of unions. Yes. You press the companies until they need to increase wages without government intervention. There's the point. And that's my point about Markel. I think Markel has a point. Is this the free market? Is this workers now saying, I don't want to work for this amount of money? And they're basically unionizing, I guess by default, saying, I don't want to work for this. I'm not against it. I think unions are a great idea, as long as they're not government sponsored and backed by the government, right? But fine, you can get together and decide that you're not going to work for X or Y. But my worry is, has the government intervened too much? So this isn't really a free market. This is government putting its thumb on the scale. In that case, I'm not sure that's the right answer. I don't have a problem with people saying, I'm not going to work at a certain place unless you pay me some amount of money. That's fine. Everyone should be able to do that. 100%. So nearly 50K of the jobs created were in government. That's also true. That's almost every single month. You're right, Lance. That's true. Yes. Shamrocker says, did he say live event industry? You got to be kidding me. They shut that entire industry down. I know. What can you do? In certain areas of the country, you can do some in certain areas, but it's very limited, and it's just starting to come back. And then, what is it, 50% the here, and if you're vaccinated this, and it's, again, how do we know what's going to happen? David says, no one wants to work when liberal politicians are convincing people that working in person is hazardous to their health. Another valid point. The fear that was pushed out by the mainstream media and by the government is now really coming back to bite a lot of people. Now it's like, well, why would we do that? Right? Why would we? Yes, I agree. Jan says, I despise these degrading business signs. The business paying incentive should increase the hourly wage. Some is just going to be gone. This is a valid point, Jen. Right. And this is my point I was bringing up earlier. If I'm a worker and I see my boss giving, as Missy said, $100 sign-on bonus, or as Michael Siracana said, $500 bonus, aren't I thinking, well, just give me the more money, period. And then what are the people who are already working there thinking? So I'm working there, right? I showed up, right? And I'm working. Now he brings Jan aboard. She gets a $500 check, which is, I quit. I want to come back home so I can get my check. I mean, wouldn't you say that, right? Am I crazy here? Wouldn't you say, well, if you're going to give Jan a $500 check, you got to give me one too, or I'll quit, and then I'll re-sign on and get my check. If that's true, I think, Jen, you're totally right. Just raise everybody. If this is the problem, just raise everybody's salaries. Then the problem becomes is, obviously, if I'm, whatever the KFC or whatever I am, and I raise all my salaries and I do it, and I used to be paying whatever, $12 an hour or whatever is the appropriate salary in your part of the country. And I go, I'm doing 17. I'm doing 17 an hour. And people go, you know what? 17, I'll show up. Okay. People start showing up. Well, I got to charge more. Does the other guy charge more? If he doesn't, do the actual people still come to my KFC? That is the fear that now an entrepreneur has. If the entrepreneurs all go, fine, we're all raising the salaries, then we all got to raise the prices. And then you go to whatever one you like. You like McDonald's, you like KFC, you like Taco Bell, you go to whatever, whichever one you prefer. But if I'm the first guy to have to raise my prices, I take the hit first. Because now you go, well, I'm not going to pay whatever, $14 for my meal at Larry's joint. When I go to David's joint and pay 10, I don't like chicken that much. I'll have tacos, whatever, and I'll go pay $10 for my meal now, and that's the worry. So this is a back and forth. Nobody wants to be the first guy to do it, right? I don't want to be the first guy to do it. But your point is well taken, Jen. And I think in the long run, how are workers going to trust the employers if they're just doing I'll throw you an extra $500, I'll throw you extra $100, right? How are the workers going to trust the bosses? Because once you set that precedent, I mean, think about it. Jen, you and I are working at the KFC, and I see when they bring David in and give him $500, you and I are going to be like, where's my money? And then when we do something good, we're going to what? Cash bonuses. Well, you got cash bonuses. Look how good. Last week, I did all these cool things. I did all the cool stuff I'm supposed to do in the store. Where's my cash bonus? You going to give me a cash bonus? Maybe I'll head on over to Burger King. I mean, I think it's a bad precedent, Jen. I don't want to take so long on this, but your point is a valid one. I think they should just, if this is the battle the small businesses have to fight, bonuses are not the way of fighting it. It's just raising salaries, making it temporary then, making it a contract. It's for 6 months. It's for a year, whatever. If you're afraid you have to go backwards and you make it a contract, I'm guaranteeing you this salary for this amount of months, this amount of years, whatever the case may be. You make it a contract and everyone gets a higher salary until whenever. That would make more sense than the bonus piece. It's not going to work. So thank you for that, Jen. I appreciate that comment. David says, well, the federal government along with the state giving unemployment, people were making more in unemployment versus working. Unfortunately, some businesses not opening because they can't find workers. That is happening, David. That is happening. I think we have to start thinking about what the future is going to be. Absolutely. Let me grab a little bit more of this if I can. There's a little bit more, and he brings on an expert, which has some interesting things to say also.
Idaho, trying to change that now, with South Carolina and Montana ending federal pandemic unemployment benefits altogether for its residents starting next month.
And I think other states are going to follow that. I think they're going to believe that this is the problem. They're going to start cutting the benefits. But I think there's something that people aren't talking about. And that is, it's not just wanting to work. It's wanting to go to work, right? It's wanting to go to work. And you might say, what do you mean by that? And I'm going to take this from my own world here. I live in New York City, and commuting into Manhattan, I live in Queens, can be anywhere for half an hour to an hour one way. So an hour to 2 hours of commuting every day. Of course, all of you, if you go to work, you have some commute, 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour, whatever it is. You drive, take a bus, subway, whatever, you do something. This has been over a year of many people not doing that anymore, of not having to go through that part of their rat race. And a lot of people don't want to do it again. They don't. They did a recent survey showed that 1 in 5 people who are currently working, but remotely, only 1 in 5 want to go back to working full-time in an office. 1 in 5, 20%. That's it. And a third say if they have to go back full-time, they will quit. They're like, I'm just not doing it. I'm just going to quit. I'll find other work. I'll work someplace else. What the government didn't realize when they did these lockdowns for this amount of time is they would change the habit of the American worker, literally millions of them. I told you this months ago, and people aren't paying attention. Months ago, I said, I know a lot of people who are well off and are wealthy than my clients when I do my coaching and my training. And many of them have 2 homes. Right? It's common if you live in New York City and you're wealthy, you tend to have 2 homes. One in New York City and one someplace else. Jersey Shore, Long Island, upstate New York, Florida, something. And many of those people have packed up and left. They've gone to that second home. They've been making money from that bigger, cheaper second home. They don't want to come back. And many of them aren't. They don't come back. The people who service and work for them don't come back. None of them come back. Changes everything. A lot of people are thinking that. So some people just don't want the rat race anymore. And if a job says you got to go there and do it, they're like, I'm not going there. I'd rather stay home. I'd rather spend time with my family, friends, whatever. We've changed our habits, right? Think about this. School kids, you're a high school kid. You used to get up early in the morning to go to high school. Now you don't. What time does school start? Click the Zoom. I'm in school, right? He just woke up. I mean, that's what the high school kids are doing now. Whole different world. Adults, the same thing. If you'd be to work at 9 and you had an hour commute, well, you're leaving your house maybe 7:45. Got to get up 6:30 maybe if you want to get dressed, shower, eat, whatever. Now you start your work at 9. You wake up 8:30. Big difference. I mean, it's a whole different worldview. Everything's different. So I think that's part of it. They're not talking that habits have been changed in the American worker. And many people, it's not they don't want to work. Some people don't. I don't want to say that's not the case. Some people don't want to go to work. They want to be able to sit in their home or at Zoom or when they go away and work. And I get it too, right? I'll tell you personally how I feel. When I make good money, my highest money is when I'm consulting with a company. When I'm physically consulting, I'm at the company, consulting with that company. That is where I make the most money always. And that means I'm getting up, I'm going in there, I'm physically working at the company. Since COVID, I can't do that, right? Since the COVID lockdown. So most of my work has been either classes online or coaching online, where I don't make as much money. I'm considering retaining this model. Taking a hit in cash, but retaining this model. I'm actually considering that because do I want to go back into the rat race? It doesn't mean I won't. I might. And if I need cash, I might go. And if the offer is good, I'd probably go anyway, right? If I get a good offer, I'd probably go anyway. But even I'm considering it. So I could see others considering similar things.
Here's what Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had to say about the issue.
We've been so generous with our plus-ups to unemployment insurance.
They're generous. They love us. Do you feel the love in his heart? He's so generous.
Oh. And the checks that we've been sending everybody, that a great many Kentuckians and Americans look at the situation and find they're better off financially to stay home rather than go back to work.
There is a part to that, because it isn't just the dollars. There's another piece we're not talking about either, which is childcare, right? This lockdown has affected women more than men. Men, of course, too, but women more than men, right? The last crash affected men more than women. This one affected women more than men. And one of the biggest issues was shutting down schools. Still to this day in America, most child primary caretakers are women. That's a fact. So when all of a sudden the school kids aren't in school, who has to deal with that? More women than men. So more women had to either end their work, change their work, shift their work, cut back on work, all types of things. And now you find something else. Their habits are different too. You now have people now who are accustomed to being around their kids more. Some don't want that, but some want that. Some want to be around their kids more. And they're like, wait a minute. So now I'm going to go to work, lose my benefits, pay for childcare, and not spend time with my kids. What? That doesn't make any sense. I'll stay home. I get it. There's other issues. You keep about 40% of schools are still not open full time. And we don't know, will they open, they close? If all of a sudden someone gets COVID, they shut the whole school down. Well, I can't have a job when I don't know if my kid's going to be home or not. It's impossible. How could I do that? These are all issues that we've set up.
The president yesterday said otherwise when speaking to reporters.
The data shows that more workers are looking for jobs, and many can't find them.
Yeah.
While jobs are coming back,
see, no, this is not accurate. More workers are looking for specific types of jobs, and those specific types of jobs they can't find. That's accurate. That's true. And, you could look at this good and bad. You could look at it as, oh, it's terrible. Look at how people are being lazy and not wanting to work. That's one way of looking at it. There's another way of looking at it, too. This is an opportunity for people to pick the job that's better and right for them. You could look at it either way.
Millions of people out there looking for work.
Do you believe enhanced unemployment benefits had any effect on diminishing a return to work in some categories?
No, nothing measurable.
Yeah, he just pulled that one out of his butt because he had to. That can't be, it can't be no, right? It may not be the number one thing that's possible. You could argue that, but no, that was ideology talking. That's a total ideology talking. Let me grab a couple more of these, comments. So many of them, I appreciate all these comments. I really do. Malik said, I started my own little business since it was so hard to get a job with COVID. I love that. Oh my God, that's awesome. I do love that. Yes. After the bubonic plague, salaries went up a lot. That's terrible, Susan. Oh, it's terrible. I shouldn't have laughed at it. I feel bad laughing at it, but I get your point, right? But in this case, a third of the population died. Clearly, you have a lack of labor. But I think that could be something. I mean, maybe it's the time for workers to unite, right? Without government getting behind them, obviously. But yeah, maybe. So yes. Landman John says, leveling speaking, if we could afford to pay more, we would. The suppression from the government is overwhelming. Ooh, interesting point, right? Are they giving bonuses because they can't afford to maintain this in the long run? And I think the only way is by raising prices on everything. If you raise prices on everything, do you retain a business? And if you go out of business, is that the market? Or no, is it government putting the suppression on? And my gut tells me this is government caused, right? I can see the argument for it. I can, but this is government caused. This is a self-inflicted wound by the government. That's what it is. So yeah. Leanna says, stop handing out unemployment or low rates so people will be more open to going back to work. Unfortunately, people make more money on unemployment than they do if they're working. Government wants everyone dependent upon them, though. I think that's true, but there's something else. You have people on the left who are using this to their advantage. And I get it. I think if I were them, I think I'd do the same thing. Now is the time for workers to say, everyone get better salaries. I get where they're coming. I do. I get where they're coming from. I just feel like this goes back to never let a crisis, never let a crisis go to waste. And I think you're finding a lot of workers taking advantage of this and saying, good, you got to give me money. I think this is why the guys want to give bonuses and not raise salaries, because raising salaries is permanent. But I'm saying, if you're worried, right? If I'm a small business owner, I agree with Jan. I'm not going to give a bonus. I'm going to have higher salaries, but I'm going to make each person who comes aboard a 1 year or 6 month employment contract. That's what I'm going to do. I'll give you the higher salary. I would do it. This is what I would do if it was my company. I'd give you a higher salary, but it's a 6 month or 1 year contract. That's all I would do. You get all the benefits, whatever it is, but that's the level of the contract. At the end of that contract, if nothing's changed, I'm going to renew the contract because I still need workers. People are paying, whatever. I got to do it. But if it's changed to where things are back to where they were, I'm going to change your salary. And you can leave if you want to, because that means more workers are coming. That's how I would handle it. And then look, maybe they're right. And maybe this is the change and workers simply aren't going to work for this anymore. And doesn't matter what happens. You got to pay them X dollars. If that's what I got to pay, then that's what I got to pay. I'm not against the market pushing me up and down. That's kind of how it works in business. I deal with it too. Different level, obviously, but same thing. So obviously, says even in states like Florida, they're having issues getting people to work in construction since federal unemployment benefits are so good. Okay. They're not having enough people to work to meet the demands of the influx of people relocating here, hence causing a natural rise in housing costs. Whoa. I know a contractor who moved there and he cannot get people to show up to work, even though people are begging him to do work for him. Even free red states, he puts in quotes, free red states are not immune from this disaster. Yeah, let me give a little pushback on that, guys. A little pushback. I think it was tough getting people to show up even before. Tougher now. But I would bet if you asked a lot of people, they would tell you it was hard to get people also. I think it'd be hard to get people back then too. Harder now. And there's also a movement, right? I think if you look at the socialist movement in America is gaining traction. I know some of your heads want to explode when I say that. I know. I'm just saying it is gaining traction. It's true. It's gaining traction. And the idea of workers unite is gaining traction. And if that's where the market's going, to Markel's point, if the market's going there, I accept. If the government's pushing us, I don't. And right now, I still feel like government's pushing us. This is my problem. I think government's pushing us. I don't have a problem with the market saying, that's it, we're going to stay home and strike until you give us this or give us that. Okay. And if we can't get workers, can't get workers. That's how the market works. The labor market's a market too. This I still feel is government pushing. I think end the government benefits. I think you're right, Leanna. End the government benefits and see if people still don't want to work. If people still say, no, I'm not getting benefits. And no, I'm not showing up unless you pay me X, Y, or Z. Then that's the new norm. Pay the people. That's the new norm. I guess we're raising prices because that will be everywhere. And everybody's raising. So everybody's raising. Let's move on. My worry is what you're saying, Leanna, that if the benefits stop, people won't go back to work. If that's true, then has the market really moved? John says, yes, Koch was a personality. He was a personality. Absolutely. So yes. Rebecca says, a lot of friends who are my age are complaining about the lack of benefits for the fast food retail jobs. Exactly. Unemployment pays the same as these jobs without dealing with stupid customers. Yeah, I think there's a valid point to that, right? I do think you find that a lot of people are rethinking this. I hope, and I spoke about this last year too. Rebecca, I'm hoping that this crisis, sadly, heavily self-inflicted, I'm hoping that this crisis will have a lot of people rethink what they want to do with their life. We'll have a lot of people rethink and reboot what is important to them, to include entrepreneurs, to include us, to include everybody, right? If that's the issue, you want, if that's the issue that's happening, that people are actually rethinking everything, then this is not a bad thing in the long run. It'll be painful up front, but in the long run, I want happy Americans, and happy Americans should be doing things that they want to do. And if you don't enjoy a retail job, and some people love retail, you've met them. Some people love being in front of people and talking and yapping and doing that. They love it. And some people can't stand it. And people changing their life. Sometimes when you're older, you're like, you know what? I'm sitting at home doing nothing. I'm going to get in front of some people, and I'm going to hang out at Walmart because I'm going to be in front of people every day. I'm going to have something to do. I'm going to go out there and do it. And they love it. And some people are like, I'm older. I don't see people anymore. I'm out. Never want to see anybody ever again. Get off my lawn. It doesn't matter. I don't decide who that is, but there are people like that who want these types of positions, client facing. They enjoy that world. And I think if those people are saying, I want it, but not for $12.50 an hour, then it changes. Sam says restaurant/hospitality is a tough industry, but why now and not a year ago? Yeah, very valid point. This is my whole point, Sam. If this was really something that was happening, right? If this was what happened last year? When that last year, everyone was like, that's it, we're not working. Before COVID, you got to pay us whatever, $70 an hour, we're not showing up, or whatever is the appropriate in your area, right? Whatever that thing is. I mean, some people, depending on where you are, $17 an hour is great. Some, it's not enough. So, whatever's that number. Inflation bubble starting to hit, money print to go burr. I don't think yet, Sam. I don't. I think this is linked to several things. Overall, is it worth going back to work? I think what Rebecca's talking about is valid. You know, when I go back to work, do I lose my benefits? Meaning other things like healthcare and such, depending on where you live in this country, right? Do I make enough money to have to pay for my own healthcare now? Where if I'm not making any money, I don't have to pay for it. Not just that, childcare. If I got a kid, do I want to work, pay for childcare, and then not see my kid and make less money? Why would you? And I don't mean to be mean, but why would you? If you're a mom and you can make more money staying home and spend more time with your kids, why would you go to work, make less money, and spend less time with your kids? It makes no sense. I get that. So I think it's that too. It is a part of fear. Tom was about fear is also that too. People are scared. I think it's that also. I think it's many different things. And people not wanting to go to work. It's a lifestyle habit change. It's going to sound dumb. I know some think it's going to sound dumb when I say this. But there are people right now, and you might be one of them, who you've become accustomed to be able to, whatever, go on Facebook during your lunchtime or watch Netflix at 4:00 or whatever is the thing that you've done, or listen to your favorite podcast. I hope it's a Sharpe Way during the day. And if you have to go to work, you may not be able to do that. And you'd rather still produce and still work, but be able to do those things that you used to do. You might like the idea that you just go to the refrigerator. Maybe you go to the refrigerator too much. I know that feeling. Everyone's growing in the building on the COVID-19. So yeah, so maybe you want to go to the refrigerator, whenever you want, and you've grown to have that kind of lifestyle. Do you want to change it? I think it's all of those things together. So Leap says, what advice you give someone that want to start a podcast? Great questions. Let me touch that for a second. If you want to start a podcast, I think it's awesome to do so. There are 3 things, remember, if you're going to start a podcast. Number 1, you must be consistent. It doesn't have to be every day like I do, but you've got to be consistent. If you can do a weekly or monthly or whatever it is, don't miss. No excuse. Don't miss. Go out of your way to do it whatever it is. It's a weekly podcast, a monthly podcast, whatever it is, don't miss. That's number 1. Number 2, I think doing it to where people can interact in some way is very valuable. So I do all mine live because I want people to interact. So I would do that. And 3, I would find a niche. That's for sure. Some kind of niche, something that's special to you that other people can't grab anyplace else, and look for a niche and grow from there. I guess I'd add one more. Don't rely on guests. You can have guests. I'm not against guests. I have guests sometimes, but you can't rely on guests. If you rely on guests, you're never going to grow on your own. People have to be able to say, I want to tune in to listen to Nalik talk. There's something that she's got to say that I want to hear, whatever that thing is. And if they don't think that, your guests aren't going to be the one. are going to be the issues. It's got to be you, and then a guest is a bonus, but it's got to be about you, and that requires confidence, and that requires doing this a long time and being consistent, and eventually you'll find your niche and keep going. You don't want to rely on guests, and if you do bring on guests, I hope I do a good job of it. You don't want to ask them basic questions like, "So, tell me about your start." Anyone can ask those questions. It means nothing. And if you go on podcast, you never hear me go, "Let me tell you about who I am." I always blow those questions off and I get right into stuff. If people care about your guest or you, they'll Google them. They'll Google them. Get into interesting questions. Do some homework on your guests so you can ask the right questions when you use guests. That would be my advice. I hope that was helpful. So David said, I think Beam was the mayor. Yes, that's right. Beam. And people didn't like Beam. Wasn't it Beam? Beam. Yes, it was. People did not like him. That's right. He was. Yeah. That's what it was. Yes. Beam. Thank you for that, David. So, all right. See if I can do this. Tom says, who has stock in automated self-checkout and order machines? Because that's what's going to happen. I think you are correct. I think you're totally on the nose, Tom. I think you see it already. We're already moving towards automation. That is going to be a piece. Absolutely. It's going to be a piece. There's going to be automation. Absolutely. So let me grab a little bit more of this one. There's still some cool stuff here. I want to go a little bit further if I can.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce disagrees. The business lobbying group called for an end to the $300 a week federal unemployment benefit on Friday, claiming the disappointing job report numbers clearly show that people are not incentivized to go back to work. So is the government being too generous, and will the jobs we see open today be there come September?
And that is my issue, right? I'm not against people getting unemployment benefits. That's been part of our world for a long time. It's the extra $300 to me. That's the issue, right? And that will go back to what Jan was talking about. If you lose the $300 and you just get regular unemployment and you still say, I'm not working, then that's a movement. But if you just go, oh, I lost $300. All right, let me go back to work. Then it wasn't the movement. Then it was just government.
I want to know what you think. Go to my website this hour at smirconish.com and answer this.
By the way, in this case, he actually got about 54% of people to say, yes, this is CNN. And 54% said yes. That's interesting, isn't it?
People to return to work. Joining me now to discuss is Eric Morath, a reporter who covers labor economics, and policy for the Wall Street Journal. He wrote this front-page story yesterday. Millions are unemployed. Why can't companies find workers?
Yes.
Eric, there are many factors at play here, right? Fear of getting COVID, schools that are not yet open, lack of a skill set for jobs that exist. But
now, this is the issue right here. This right here is all the reasons. It's not just one thing. It is they're getting cash. That's true. And there's some fear of COVID. That's true, some of that. Lack of childcare. I think that's a big one, to be forward with you. I think that's a big one. New lack of skills for new jobs. People are trying to switch new careers or don't want to switch new careers. They like their career. They don't want to change it. And then they want the old job. And then the new jobs available are lower wages. Well, then why am I going to step down? I'd rather wait till September and hope.
You were a guest on my radio program, and after you left, then came a torrent of calls from small business owners. I can tell you they absolutely believe that government money has disincentivized the workforce.
Now, if they believe that, then they believe their government is competing against them. That's not healthy, because either it's true or it's not, but either way, if they believe it, it's a problem, right? Let me grab a couple more of these here. So I got some other things here. Let me grab some other questions here. A little bit out of off topic. That's okay. Ron says, Larry, any comment on Dave St. possibly running for the L candidate for president? People keep asking me this question. And I gotta tell you, it's 3 years out, man. If he wants to run, good for him. I hope he does well. But it's 3 years out, and there's gonna be no incumbent, meaning that I don't think Biden's gonna run again. So it's probably gonna be Kamala or whomever they choose, or if they do a primary, if they don't like her or whatever, it'll be her. Republicans will have some form of primary, or it'll be Trump, whatever. But either way, there's not going to be a primary. And if there's not going to be a primary, and if there's two heir apparents, which right now it's Kamala and Trump at the moment, but who knows 3 years from now, That means people who are anywhere close to independent are going to start rushing the Libertarian Party to snag our line so they can fight these guys and hope to win. Good luck. I'm not upset. Good luck. Just, it's 3 years. You can't tell what this is going to look like for at least 2 years. You just can't tell what this feels going to look like. So I guess in my opinion, good luck. He has 3 years to be able to beat all the usurpers who are going to be rushing to our party in 3 years. So yeah, there we go. What is your opinion on the latest vaccination requirements for SUNY and CUNY schools? I am not happy. And in fact, that is the topic for my A Free Solution radio show tomorrow at 12:05 noon, 5 minutes past noon. If you want to watch it, I'm talking about exactly that. I'm not a happy camper, but that is, for those of you who don't know, that's specifically New York. State University of New York and City University of New York is what SUNY and CUNY stands for. And now New York State's saying, oh, by the way, you can't go there unless you're vaccinated. Sorry. So we will cover that tomorrow. Thank you, Benjamin. It's a great question. I haven't forgotten it. I'll be covering it tomorrow. That's all. So yes. Sean says, I decided to become self-employed full-time. So going back to work to a job I hated. Yeah. I think you find more people doing that, right? People saying, I don't want to go back to work again. I'm happy where I am. I'm going to stay where I am, and I will change my lifestyle. Sean, I think a lot of people think that. You're not alone with that one at all. Yes. Jason says there's legislation here in Oregon claiming exactly that the lockdowns are not following science. Ooh, interesting. It's interesting. I like that. Interesting. Larry, easy question for AMA Monday. How do we pay off $22 trillion in debt? Yeah, simple, Joe. I have a simple answer. We don't. There we go. At one point, you're not paying it back. At one point, you just figure out, all right, how do I negotiate this away? That's it. You got to figure out how to negotiate away. Who do we owe and how? What are we negotiating away? All right, I give you 30 cents on the dollar on this, 10 cents on the dollar on that. It's a fire sale. That's what it is. I'll give you X cents on the dollar on this, Y cents on that. And that's just thought, yeah. Same with a business, Joe. If I'm going under, I go, this debt. All right. I owe you 100 grand. I'm not paying you 100 grand. I'll put 15 on it and that's it. Call it quits. Or see you in court, right? I'll give you 15 or see you in court. The same thing big businesses do when they get a bunch of, lawsuits from the city. There's $100 million in lawsuits. Okay, great. I'll give you 10 million. Put them away. Okay, great. Take the money, move away. So I think that's the answer, right? You don't pay $28 trillion. You don't. You pay whatever someone will take on it. Tell everybody else see you in court. That's how you do it. Markel says, when the company takes money from the government without regard the worker, that is fair. What's the difference between the worker who sits out the job and they want? No, it's a valid point, Markel. It's a valid point. And that was one of my points, right? It isn't that just the worker is getting money. Companies did get some cash too, but not all. That was the piece that I was upset about, in that when the government did the bailout, it didn't bail out fairly. Cronies got the money, right? Industries got the money. Cronies got the money. They just said, all right, every American gets a bunch of cash. If you're a business owner, you get a bunch more cash. Here's how then I think that would have been fairer. But if you were one of the companies some companies got 5 figures, 6 figures. Some did. If you're a business owner and you got 5, 6 figures from the government, your point's well taken. But what if you're the one who didn't? You're one of them that got nothing. You didn't get a loan. You didn't qualify. You got nothing. So your workers are getting paid and you didn't. That's why I get your point. I'm just not sure it's so clear, so clean that makes any sense. Ash agrees. She goes, not a cut and dry issue. Access to child care is still a lingering issue. Yes. And affects many households. Absolutely. Ed says, I switched careers during last year. A lot of people did, Ed. It's the same trade, but more of a teaching role. Ooh, I like that. I love it. It's easy for people to be scared of this one because we travel so damn much. Oh, yes. Travel too. That's my point, right? Some people don't want to travel. They don't want to travel. But I guess it's like too much to not even worry about the risk. You like it too much. I love that. That's a great question. You've hit the point, Ed. You have, right? We all have to decide, is it worth it? And it isn't just fear. It could be fear. But it's also, do I like the job enough? Do I want to stay in my field? Right? Jimmy obviously loves his field. He doesn't want to get out of it. He loves it. Good for him. I hope we all have fields we love. That'd be great. Another issue, right? I think you've hit a really good point. Quentin says, so I'm seeing a lot of my friends posting things along the line. If you can't pay your workers a livable wage, you shouldn't be open anyway. Thoughts? It's a question that the governments and unions were supposed to fix this, right? They were supposed to. Government is supposed to either have the minimum wage law or whatever. Unions supposed to be able to negotiate for their people, all that stuff. But clearly they're not. So wouldn't you instead say, if you can't get workers, you shouldn't be open anyway? That's what I would say. My response would be, if they can't get workers, then they shouldn't be open. That's true. But the question is, what will the workers work for? Isn't it part of the workers' responsibility to say, I'm only going to work for a living wage, whatever that living wage is? If the workers say, I'm not working unless you pay me X dollars, then by default, I have to pay a living wage. That kind of, if you can't pay workers a livable wage, is making the workers like infants. It's making them as if they have no power. They can't do anything. And if that's true, and if the workers are that weak, and maybe your friend's correct, maybe the workers are that weak and that desperate. Okay, if that's true, then why aren't they unionizing? Why aren't they unionizing? Why aren't they going, you know what, let's get together, and we're not going to show up until you pay us whatever the living wage is. The problem with your friends posting is it's one-sided. And it shouldn't be if they can't pay. It's if they can't get workers. Because you're seeing it already. When the workers don't show up, they start paying or they go under. So this shouldn't be a thing. If the workers don't show up, they have to pay more. If the workers still don't show up, they go under. So as long as the workers are taking their responsibility in this also, what's the problem? I hope that was clear. Paul says it will be inflated anyway. Anyone with U.S. dollars in the bank will lose their savings. Oh, God. And those with the gold and crypto, mostly gold, will see their wealth preserved. God, I hope you're not right. I don't want to see that collapse. I hope you're wrong, Paul, but I fear that you may be right. Yes. Rebecca says most of the service industry won't be okay or come back in full until the live entertainment / tourist industry returns. Very valid point, right? Many people go out to do those types of things because they're making a night on the town or a night out. Totally right. They go see a movie and then go to a restaurant. They go see a show, blah, blah, 100%. Live music plus, a bar or whatever. Totally right. Yes. Vegas is struggling with employment because they are still giving unemployment dollars and the crowd is not as high class as it used to. Yeah, they're not spending the money. That's true. I wouldn't go high class. They aren't spending the cash. People of all classes spend cash, but if they're not spending as much, yes, I completely agree. Yes. Jericho says, I keep seeing the argument that people won't go back because they aren't getting a living wage. It has certainly prompted the minimum wage argument. And this may be a good thing. This might be a good thing in the long run, right? If this spurs a real, change in how America is culturally, yeah, I'm okay. Yes. So there it is. That's me. I had the word roadie. It was a backline technician that toured. Took me 48 years to land my dream job, and now it's gone. That sucks. Oh, Jimmy. I guess you hate the word roadie. Yeah, but they don't know any better, Jimmy. They don't know any better. Yeah. It does suck. I hope it comes back, man. I hope it does. Avi, Larry, my family has a real estate development and construction company in New Jersey, which, as you know, is oppressive as New York. Yes, we are. Yes. I wish we could escape to a more free state, but given that my father's in his mid-60s, and I just pick up and leave, given our business delivery brick and mortar. Yep. And trying to explain to him why a move is beneficial at this point of his life seems so extreme. How is this kind of situation in which staying here seems like a road to nowhere? This is a common problem, Avi. There are many people in New York, specifically New York, and this area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, where they're so oppressive that most people don't leave until one of three things happens, depending on where they are in their life. One, if they have a state job until they've done their X number of years and can retire and get their pension. So they stay until that. Two, until their children are out of either high school or college, depending upon how old their kids are, or 3, until an elderly parent finally either dies or retires. It's a common thing. When people are in their 60s or 70s, they tend to not want to reboot until it's their final, like I'm going to retire in Florida or something like that. My gut tells me, Avi, your father's not going to change until he decides he's done. He's going to go retire someplace. And when he wants to put his feet in the water at most of the days, when that happens, I think that's when he's going to pack up and leave. I think he's going to stay what he knows, where he made his money. I'm not sure you can convince him. I think what I would do if I were you, my opinion, is I would start talking to him about eventual retirement and then say, hey, why don't we do some homework on this now so that whenever that time comes, you're ready. That's what I would do. And he might go, I'm not ready to retire. No worries, Pop, whether that's 5 years or 10 years or whatever that is, 20 years, make me happy. And let's do a little bit of work on it now so I feel better. Note, you make it, put it on yourself. Can we take a trip to, and you, wherever you want to move to, whatever that is, can we do a weekend there? Whatever. Say you want to go to Tennessee. I don't know. I'm making this up. Tennessee's booming. Maybe you want to go to Tennessee. So you say, hey, let's go to Nashville. So you take him to Nashville for a weekend. And he gets to see it without pressure. Just enjoying it and saying, hey, when you retire, this might be a place for you. And if he likes it, he might move. If he doesn't like it, he might not. But he might be open to another one. So that's what I would do if I were you. My advice to you would be, say when you retire, can we start looking at places now? It's on me and make me feel better, Dad, if we do this. Can you please do it to make me happy? Can we just go for a weekend? Odds are he'll begrudgingly say yes. You'll take him for a weekend. If he likes it, he may change. If not, he may not. That's my advice. I hope that helped. So yes. Shadowfall says the roadie lifestyle gets tiring. All the travel rock star, none of the glory. Yeah, but some people like it. I mean, Jimmy does. Yeah, people like it. Absolutely. They do. So Pete says some people don't ever want to go back to work. This is madness. This is true too. Yeah, this is true too. Michael says, hey, Larry, waiting to see the day when you get the job of being New York governor. Thank you. Maybe one day. We'll see. We'll see. Yes. So a working wage will have its due in this new marketplace. It might be, Susan. And I think we're going to know when those states begin to take away the $300, right? I forgot the 2 states he says, Dakotas or whatever it was. I forgot the 2 states he said. But when those states remove their $300, do people go back or not? They're like, no, you got to raise your rates. No, I think you're going to find a working wage. And I think this is the way it should be. It should happen naturally. It shouldn't happen with the government pushing it. It should happen naturally. And I hope it does. I think a natural minimum wage kind of already is around 12 to 15 bucks already. I think that's just my gut. I have no data on this. It is just my opinion. But I think, Susan, if this works out well, we'll find out. We'll find out. Absolutely. So Brendan says $618 a week is legit what an average adult makes. Yeah. And depends on where you are, right? Yes. $618 a week is not a bad deal in many places in this country. You can do well with that. You can survive. You can have a life. You absolutely can. Certain places in this country, you living in LA? No. New York? No. New York City? No. Upstate New York? You can. Depending on where you are, obviously. Not every place, but some places you can. 100%. Yes. All right, so if I can do this here. Shadford says they don't need to work because they got a raise by voting the Biden. That's actually funny. I like that. David says, Larry, here in Kentucky, that's damn good money. There we go. See? Absolutely 100%. Yes. Andrea says, I make that much a week with a full-time office job. Yes, exactly. 618 and nothing to sneeze at. That's nothing to sneeze at. I agree. And think about it. If I could get 618 a week, if I could get that and still retain my lifestyle, either being with my kids, if I have kids, or staying home the way I want to, or watching whatever I want to watch, whatever, I really think that a lot of people are going to choose, I want to retain the 618 and the lifestyle. I really do think that you could do both, that people want to do both. That's what I think. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, right? I mean, unless, again, if you're Jimmy and you love your job, Andrea, I hope you love your job. If you love your job, you'll go work because you love your job. So you would rather not be home watching Netflix. You'd rather be at your job because you love your job. I hope everybody has that kind of job. The reality of it is, Not everyone does, right? Not everyone does have that job where they can feel that way. I really hope that. Yes. So Desiree says, I haven't worked my retail job since last year. I'm taking medical building classes. I did a career change. Good on you, Desiree. Thank you. That's amazing. Yes. And this could be valuable. 100%. Yes. Thank you so much. And that's some people. Why would you go back to work when you're prepping yourself for your next career? I'd rather you get a career that you'd rather have, right? Maybe retail was good for you. Maybe at one point you were like, yeah, I like this. And maybe your life has changed. You're like, you know what? Not for me anymore. I'd rather be medical billing. And medical billers can work from home, depending on what company you're working for, obviously. But you can work from home being a medical biller. So, yeah, absolutely. So, Joshua says, government caused supply shortage of labor and resources. Yes, yes, and yes. 100%. Yes. Donna says, the $300 a week is absolutely affecting the restaurant staffing. It has to. I think it does. There is an effect. I can't believe for Biden to say that, it's just not true. It's not the only thing, right? And Desiree shows, she's talking about that. Jan's talking about that also. It's not the only thing, but it's clearly affecting it, right? To just say no, that's not the right answer. It's just not true. So I'm going to do what I always do, guys. I'm going to ask you a favor. Do me a favor. Like, comment, share. If you like what I'm doing, if what I'm showing you is interesting and you think it's valuable and people should know about it, you got to help me out. You got to like, you got to comment, you got to share. And if you have some cash, if some of you are working and you're getting your extra Biden bucks, you throw some money my way, do that. Head over to patreon.com/sharpeway. It'll be $10 a month. Help me move this stuff forward. You know what we have? If you click on the Linktree link in the description, we got podcasts you listen to. If you're going back to work, you're in the subway or bus, put it in, listen to the podcast. We have a Sharpe Way clips, Patreon, all kind of cool stuff you can enjoy. So please check that out. It does matter. If you can, and we do that by me paying my staff to put up these things, to do the work, to make this happen. It does work. And of course, if you don't have any of that, no worries. Head on over to the link I have right there that's in the description, the Protest and Civil Disobedience Survey. Take that survey, finish that survey, and share that survey. Those are my sponsors, theadvocates.org. They sponsor this show. They help move this show forward. So please, if you don't have the cash, no worries. You can just take this and my sponsors are happy. So it's free and you're helping to support the show. Take the test, the survey, finish the survey, share the survey. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Thank you so much for all the work that you guys have been doing. I do appreciate that. Let me grab a couple more. Durham, how are you, brother? Good to see you. I can't speak for all Americans, but the individuals I speak with on a regular still love their job/work. Work gives a lot of people purpose and substance for a day. Yes. And that's my point. If you love your job, you're going to head back to work. So I hope Desiree's new career, I hope she enjoys it. I hope she really enjoys it. She'll happily go there. New career, new job. Life is good. He continues, a lot of people are getting caught misusing PPP loans. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, for those of you who know, the PPP loans are supposed to be paying on payroll, but I guess they're putting in their pocket. Yeah, that actually makes sense. That goes back to, that actually goes back to what Markel was saying, right? If they're getting the cash, scamming the cash, then they're the same as the worker, in which case, yeah, makes sense. Yes. Joe says, I know someone who quit a job after they put a mask policy and started his own business. Huh. Just that one story, though. Most folks I know have stuck to the job. A few of my friends are busier than ever. Huh. Good for them. I hope they're getting paid appropriately. I hope so, at least. But yeah, that's great. Yes. Rebecca says, I went to a comedy club on Friday, and I generously tipped my server. They were friendly and so happy to be open and working in. Oh, look at that, Rebecca. You are good. You are good. Nice. Absolutely. Yes. Tom says, you had to show Biden, didn't you? For you, Tom. For you. Of course. Yes. David said, this is not a new phenomenon. Jimmy Carter discussed it on the firing line with William F. Buckley. He said it was easier for mothers to be on welfare. Yes. I've said this before. I talked about it for years, right? There was also more money from welfare. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So, all right. See if I'm going to go a little bit further in this. Just listen to this guy give his 2 cents. He does bring up a couple good points.
Yeah, absolutely. The feeling among businesses is that the enhanced unemployment benefits are providing a large disincentive. And I think that is certainly the case for lower wage jobs. You mentioned the average payment could be a little bit more than $600. That's about $15 an hour.
Yes. So if you're someone though, what if before this lockdown, what if you were making $1,200 a week? What if you were making $2,000 a week? Well, you don't want to go take a job for that, for lower than that. You want to keep your same lifestyle, don't you? Right? If you're making $2,000 a week, $1,200 a week, don't you want to keep making that money? Why would you want to take a step down? So now the jobs that are open are more of the service jobs that are going to be more closer to $600 a week. Well, I was making $2,000 a week or $1,200 a week. I don't want that job, right? Particularly, what if you don't even want that kind of job? What if Nalik tells me she's an engineer? Well, if you're an engineer and you can't find a job, do you want to have that $600 job? I know the answer. People are going to say, yeah, but Larry, got to pay bills. Agreed, got to pay bills. Agreed. Look, I've taken jobs that I didn't want. I know many people have. I'm with you on that. Got to pay bills. I'm not against that idea. But if you've got the 618 coming in, you've probably changed your lifestyle a bit, but in your head, it's temporary, right? You're going into some debt. You have a temporary lull in your lifestyle because you had a lifestyle of $2,000 a week. 618 a week lifestyle, that's a big difference in lifestyle change. No matter where you live, that's a lifestyle change for you. So you're making a lifestyle change now. You want that lifestyle change to be temporary. You don't want it to be permanent. Who wants to step backwards? If you're making $2,000 a week, you don't want to step backwards to 600. Who would? Nobody would want to. So I think some of the people are just going, not good enough. I want my old salary back. I want my old money back, or I'm not moving. I think there's some of that too. And when I got my butt kicked in 2010 from the 2009 crash, I felt that. I had to change my pricing structure and everything. I was making big money before the crash came. Big dollars. I had an office in Manhattan, employees. I had my own training facility. Big dollars, working for big banks and big real estate. Crash came, took all that away. You think I wanted to work for less? Of course not. Did I? Yeah. Did it suck? Yeah. Yeah, it sucked. I didn't want to do it. I thought I was a big man. And all of a sudden now I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll take that work. So, I'll take that work. Absolutely. Things changed. And it's not easy for someone to deal with that. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying it's hard. You're making $2,000 a week or whatever you're making a week, and now you're going to make 600. So you in some cool office talking with the big boys and the big girls, and now you got to be on the front line. Not easy to handle. Just not easy to handle. That's all I'm saying.
Working full time. So if you're looking for jobs in that $10 to maybe $18 an hour range, it's going to be hard to convince someone that they should come to work, spend the child care cost, spend the commuting cost. There we go.
Child care cost, commuting cost. If you live on Long Island in New York and you live in Long Island, you want to head into the city every day. I mean, you're dropping hundreds of dollars every month just to get into the city, just to get in the city. And your commute is at least 2 hours a day, at least, if not 3 or 4 hours a day.
When they could stay at home and maybe wait till things play out through the summer.
President Biden, of course, disagrees with what I hear from the small business owners. Last night, I was guest hosting for Chris Cuomo on his program Primetime, and Robert Reich, the former Clinton labor secretary, was my guest. Here's what he had to say in response to this issue.
Watch this stupidity.
A lot of work.
And I don't know this, but he just always says stupidity. I know some people love Reich. I am not a fan of Reich at all. The stuff he says, I'm surprised how backward he is.
Workers want to return to work. I know that. I hear from them every day.
Okay, that's a lie. Workers don't call you every day. Stop. Workers, Robert Reich, I want to go to work, but I can't. That does not happen. He just made that up. That does not happen.
You just go around the country. People want to return to work. It's not unemployment insurance that's keeping them out. I mean, the extra unemployment insurance is what? $300 a week. I mean, try to live on $300 a week. No.
You're not living on $300 a week, my friend. You're living on unemployment with an additional $300 a week. Total crap again. Too blatant. One was just a lie, and this was just a total misdirection.
people want to return to work. They just simply can't right now. One of the goals.
They can't right now. Because he says so? Everything he just says garbage.
Goals here, obviously, over the long term, is to start lifting wages. And so you want a very hot labor market in terms of that goal.
That's true. Okay, sorry. He wrapped it up well. I'll give him that. Garbage, good wrap up. You do want a hot labor market. That's true. That's good for workers. And we had that in the 90s. Some of you who are old as me, if you remember, in the 90s, we had that for a while, right? People were making money just by changing jobs. Like that was it. You'd have a job for 2 years and you'd make whatever, 40 grand a year. And you're like, well, I'm going to change jobs. Okay, 44 grand a year. 2 years, change jobs. Okay, 48 grand a year. Just like that. Just boom, boom. Big chunks just for moving. Because people, it was the .com. Everybody was rushing to work for that. And everything was exploding. If you were around in the 90s for work, boy, that was work for you. So it was crazy. But he's right. But the rest of it, he says, all garbage.
So I understand his point, Eric. His point is to say, well, if you're a small business person, then pay your labor force more, to which I guess a small business person would say, I'm now in the position of competing with the federal government in terms of how much I'm going to pay.
This is the issue, right? Do we really want to be competing against the federal government? Or, is this the backhanded way of the federal government creating a $15 minimum wage? Right? Is it a stealthy way of the federal government saying, well, I'm not going to pass the $15 minimum wage. I'm just going to pay everybody $15 an hour to do nothing. So you're going to have to pay that, at least that or more. So I basically created a $15 minimum wage without passing a law. I'm just going to pay them that, and then they're not going to work for you if you don't pay them more. So I have, by default, created a $15 minimum wage. Is that the thing? And that might be what's happening here.
Right. In some ways, people have said it kind of creates a de facto $15 minimum wage, which of course Congress considered and didn't pass earlier this year. Now, some employees, the workers I talked to say, well, they know there might be a job at a fast food restaurant or a e-commerce warehouse out there, but they don't want to take that job. They want the job they lost back.
Yes. And this goes back to what Jimmy was saying too. He wants his job back. I get it. A lot of people do. If you like your job or love your job, you want to go back to it. I get it.
So maybe that's at a mall or at a higher end restaurant where they think they could earn more money. And maybe that's at something like live events or even an office type job. And
live events, Jimmy, did this guy talk to you? I mean, it's like he's talking, you're speaking your language here.
Actually, half of workers surveyed recently said they want to work, but they want to work from home.
Yes.
So that's really hard to match those folks with someone that's not filling that fast food drive-through.
And that's my point I brought up earlier, right? I do think that a lot of people they don't want to work. They don't want to go to work. They want to work. They don't want to go there. They want the go part to not exist. They just kind of want to sit home and do the job there and present value. And not a lot of those jobs are available now because most of those people who could do that work were already doing it, right? They didn't stop working. They were still working the whole time.
Right. And that takes us back to what I said earlier. Part of the reason they want to work from home is because they have a safety concern about the workplace or because the schools aren't open. This opens up a whole other can of worms. Because the schools aren't open, they need childcare that they can't support because they've got to take care of their kids.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. About 40% of schools are not fully reopened.
Still not even open.
Their kids go one day, maybe don't go the next day. That's really difficult
100%.
for someone that might need to work like a retail, a delivery job, a warehouse job. Those are the jobs that are created. Those are many.
And the other thing you'll find people doing now because of exactly that is they're also accustomed to the gig economy. They're accustomed to doing things like the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Seamless, the Grubhubs. They're accustomed to doing that now, Uber Eats. And what that does, it gives them freedom. So you know what? You can still be home when your kid gets home from school if you want to. You can help your kid with homework. You can make it to where one parent stays home to watch the kid while the other parent goes out and does Grubhub work or whatever the case may be. You have flexibility, right? If you're afraid because your parents are elderly and they might die from COVID, you're worried about that. Okay, got it. You can, hang out with your parents when you need to, and you can do what you got to do to keep them safe too. That flexibility, a lot of people want that flexibility again. They don't want to go back. to a 9 to 5 or whatever is the job they're doing. They want the flexibility. When you make this type of culture altering decisions for over a year, it affects us. It affects our culture. It affects our habits. It affects how we think and how we do things. It isn't so easy to just go, you know what? Back to work. It's not easy. It's difficult. That's the issue. It's difficult. So Ed says, there's one thing during the lockdowns that government made a mistake by giving out free money, as in stimulus checks and employment benefits, because it reward not only the lazy people, it does reward the scalper as well. If you heard about what happened with retail stores like Target, Walmart, have all the trading cards like Pokemon, sports, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Were being shelved out, which leads to more problems. Oh, collectors. Oh, I get sorry about that, Ed. Now I get where you're going with that. Yeah, I mean, once you change, and for those of you who don't know about collectors, once you change the environment of any collectibles, you change everything, right? People are expected to have it come out at a certain time, a certain way, this is where you get stuff. It changes pricing. It changes everything. It totally does. It's a valid point. There were a lot of errors that were made, and we just, as you know, of course, unintended consequences. Yes. So, all right. Let's see. Joe says Florida is a free red state. He just quotes because it isn't. Joe doesn't agree with you, Avi. He doesn't think that's true about the free state part. Yes. Joe goes on to say, people think DeSantis is a saint. He shut down bars and dining restaurants. He lives to that ban, and people think he's God. Shake my head. Yeah, Joe's not a fan of DeSantis. Avi says, it would have been one thing to give government supplement to incentivize people to work, but the way they did it just incentivized people to be lazy and not go to work. It's still bad, but at least it would have encouraged people to work. It was clearly a political ploy, not a way to help people. It was political, Avi. I think you're right. If you want, there's a difference between stimulate and incentivize and relief, right? They're all three different. And we tried one thing to do everything. If you're going to stimulate, right? You don't want to stimulate when people aren't working, right? You want to stimulate when the economy's moving. It might be moving slowly. That's why you stimulate it. But we were basically laying on the ground and they gave us a stimulus. We're laying on the ground. What are you going to do? Maybe get up, probably just shake on the ground. What if I'm already running and I'm tiring out? Or I'm just walking, kind of slowly doing that weird walk. I'm trying to walk. Then you give me that stimulus. Now I'm running, and you hope I keep running. We gave a stimulus when everybody was at home. How's that going to help? We're all laying down, and you're going to now give me a shot of adrenaline. No, give me a shot of adrenaline when I'm already moving, right? That's the piece. I think you want to incentivize. And incentivizing might have been something like, as an example, you want to, instead of giving money, maybe suspend all payroll taxes and allow now individual people to pay more money, because tell them, look, payroll taxes are now gone. You should split what you pay in payroll tax with your employees. Now you've incentivized people to work. You get extra cash, and now the employer doesn't pay anything extra, but the employer gets a benefit. If the employer is dropping, for sake of argument, $20,000 a month on payroll taxes, you suspend payroll taxes for 6 months and say, employer, take half of that, put it in your pocket, and take half of that and give it to your workers. That's incentivizing people to work, because now the employer pays nothing extra, but he gets a little extra, and he can still give extra to his people. That's not a bad deal. That's a much better way of incentivizing people if you're going to incentivize to work. Now, if you're going to stimulate, just give everybody cash. That's not getting people to work. That's not incentivizing, right? That's just spend money. In that case, don't give it to cronies or local governments. Just give everybody a bunch of money and say, go spend it. And the vast majority of Americans will just go spend it. That's what we would do. They're two separate issues. So if I had to go down this road, and I would hate going down this road, but if I had to, I would have first done an incentivized and then a stimulus. Get people to be working and then stimulate the economy. That makes sense. We didn't do any of that, Avi. None of that. So, yeah. So, Ashley says, another point on childcare issue, parents now heading into summer, where the childcare issues will increase due to lower summer camp care options. Oh, you are right, Ashley. Yeah. So do I, as a parent now, want to get a job now when I don't know if my kid's going to have to be home all day the entire summer either. Valid point. I will bet that some families are holding through summer if possible, and you'll see more people able to enter the workforce as school starts to open up in fall in person. A very valid point. People are not accepting how much of this also, not only 300, it is 300 too, but also is schools. I think you're right. School has become our de facto daycare for kids. It just has. Some of you are mad about that, I know, but it's still true. Joshua says, most people who aim at only minimum wage jobs don't want to develop their skills and want to sell their body as a programmable vessel. Okay. They don't have any desire to be indispensable. Once you desire to be that person who specializes, that without them, the business will be missing one of its key foundations, then they can ask for whatever wage or salary that employers can afford. Retail and service industries will be automated. I think in theory, you are correct, but in practice, it's a whole lot harder. It's a whole lot harder for someone to do that when they got to pay bills now, right? When I'm in a spot where I got to pay bills now, I would love to be that person who has developed their skills so much that they're invaluable. I agree. I'd love that. But it's tough to do that when I got to pay my bills now, and I may have family or friends I have to support or deal with also, and I want to have some kind of life. It's difficult. You're not wrong, Joshua. I'm saying it's hard. You look at someone like Desiree, who literally is like doing that herself now. She's deciding I don't want to be in that field anymore. I'm going to increase my skills and be a medical biller. I think people do that. But a lot of people, it's difficult, for one, because it's difficult, but two, do they have other people around them who are telling them that, Joshua, or showing them that's the way, or giving them an example or even encouragement to do so? Or there are people next to them going, shut up and get a job, pay your bills. Do they have that? So I think it's also, who do they have in their worlds? So we, me, you, everyone else listening, watching, should be being the example. We should be following Desiree's example. She's doing it. We should do it too. Is Lake doing it too? I think she's doing it too. Let's go do it. I'm with you. I'll do it too. We're all doing it. We got to just keep working. I agree. Rick says the reason socialism is gaining traction is people not understanding what the words socialism and capitalism mean to libertarians, or vice versa. Our language is debased. It's a valid point, Rick. I think what most people think capitalism is crony capitalism, because that's what they know. I think they believe that. They think capitalism is crony capitalism, and they think socialism is cool Uncle Bernie. I think they believe that's what it is. I think you're right. It's people caring about each other and giving people free stuff. I think you're right. And we have a lot of work to do. I think we have a lot of work to do. Yes. So, Larry, could you do a video about the culture war, Cardi and Lil Nas X? Let me look into that. Let me look at that. That could be challenging because that could get nasty. But you know what? I'll look into it. Team, you guys are listening. We got to work on this one next. There we go. Yes. Nooner Eclipse says, Larry, why isn't congressional insider training banned, especially during COVID? It is in theory banned. It is. Just they don't enforce it, but it is. They're not supposed to do that, but they guard themselves. So why would he stop it? But it is. Pandemic become new gold rush for the top 0.001%. Yep. Wall Street while Main Street's drowning. By the way, when is the next housing bubble crash? I think you're right in everything you said, and I've talked about this before. Every time there's a crash, Wall Street does great. Main Street drowns. Top 1% keep doing wonderful. Doesn't matter, Democrats, Republicans. You're totally correct. That's the reason for the wealth gap is because of the crashes. 100%. I think the next crash comes, my gut says 2023. I think the government will just keep pumping money into the economy. And I think Mr. Clark is going to be angry and is going to be like, what? 29, 30, 31 trillion dollars in debt. We're going to go hugely into debt even more, driving Pete nuts. I think that's going to happen. And they're going to pump until they can't anymore after the 2022 election cycle. That's when the crash comes. Late 2022, early 2023. That is my view, only because I think that the government would just keep pumping money into the economy to keep the bubble going until that time, because who wants to have a crash during election season? right? Because then they'll get blamed. So they'll just keep putting money into the economy. That's what I think. So Jericho says, how much of people's perception of low wages do you think is related to costs of things because of inflation due to government devaluing a dollar? A lot of it is, Jericho. Tons of it. I mean, think about how far a dollar went. I still remember this. When I was a kid in the Bronx, we had a pizza joint around the corner of my house. It was called Joe's Pizza. Joe eventually passed away, and he gave it to his daughter, Paula. It became Paula's Pizza. And now it's like a Subway or something. They're gone. That's in most poor areas. Finding local people who own things is tough. It's almost always becomes a franchise. But when I went to Joe's Pizza, I remember that pizza, one slice, I was a kid, went from 40 cents to 45 cents. And I was like, what? That's pizza costs 40 cents a slice. I know I'm old, right? Pizza costs 40 cents a slice. And if you don't live in New York, you don't even know you can buy it by a slice. But yeah, you can. So I would just go down and get a slice of pizza, 40 cents. I remember it's 40 cents. I had 50 cents and I give the guy 50 cents. I get my slice of pizza and I have 10 cents left. He gave me a nickel back. And I was like, this is like, I hate to say it's like 45 years ago. And I still remember the shock of me understanding inflation. Like that's when I got inflation. I was probably, I don't know, 7, 8. I forgot how old I was. I was elementary school. And so he gives me back a nickel. I'm like, no, you made a mistake, right? I get a dime back. I don't get a nickel back. I get a dime back. He said, no, it's 45 cents. I said, no, it's not. It's 40 cents. He said, no, price changed. It went up. And that was like, what? Prices can go up? That's what? That's what? I could not. My mind was blown. Again, I'm telling you, I remember this. This is like 40 some odd years ago. And I still remember that happening to me. Pizza going from 40 cents to 45 cents a slice. I was like, the world's ending. The world's ending. And that's inflation. And now what's pizza now in New York City? $2 and something cents a slice? $2.50 a slice? Is that about right? Since COVID, who knows? About $2.50 a slice now in the city. And it was 40 cents when I was a kid. So yeah, a lot. My mother, when she worked, I remember she made $8,000 a year. And that was a good salary. Like she wasn't unhappy with that salary. She's like, oh yeah, I make $8,000 a year. Oh yeah. She was like, that's good. That was a good salary. $8,000 a year. Good salary. I still remember. It's like, wow. Yes. So anyway, yes. All right. Keep going here. Let's see. Michael says, I have to wonder if there's an increase in folks working off the books that lose benefits. Yes. Oh, Michael, I'm sure of that. I just mentioned that earlier with people working in restaurants, families working together, right? Wouldn't be the first time the government incentivized the black market. You are on the money, Michael. Yes, you are correct. I'm sure of that. You got people working in a restaurant now. The whole family's working in a restaurant. None of them are getting paid. They're all not working. So they're all getting government checks, of course, because they're all not working, but they're all working. So yeah, I'm 100% sure that's happening already. I see it all the time. And people who just want to talk that, and yeah, there we go. Pete says, good point. Cut off the free handout and let the market dictate salaries. Yes, that's how it should be. That's how it should be. 100%. We want that to be the issue. You absolutely want that. So Deborah says, all unsustainable wage or unskilled jobs should be automated. Look at that. Problem is there are more people than skilled jobs. Yeah. So the answer is trade or skilled education. Entry-level / part-time unskilled jobs will raise the requirements as a barrier to work for kids or retirees as a result. Deborah, you're right. Here's the problem. Government is trying to stop all of that. Government's going out of its way to push kids into college when certain kids shouldn't be going to college. So learning a trade or a skill is frowned upon throughout most of the country, heavily here in New York State. So the odds of someone being able to get that trade or skill is even harder because they're told by their parents, by the school, by everybody, oh, you don't want to go to BOCES or trade school. That's for the bad kids, the dumb kids. You got to go to college. Why is that? Because high schools get graded and get their cash based upon their college placement, not based on how happy their kids are. That's number one. And number two, states like California and now New York and others are going out of their way to destroy the gig economy. They are trying to break and destroy the gig economy. I spoke about it last week. The gig economy is how people learn those new skills and new jobs when you're not 18, 19, 17, When you are older, you take on the gig economy, you go on Fiverr or whatever the case may be, and you begin to learn new skill sets. You start your own business, right? That's what people do. You become a consultant. That's what I did. You become a consultant. You try to figure things out for lower value so you can learn on the job, kind of. Government is trying to go out of its way to destroy the gig economy and to still discourage all trades and push everybody into college when they shouldn't all go to college. You're correct. Our system says you're wrong, but our system's wrong. You're right. Steve says, workers who are choosing to stay home now are also making themselves less relevant when they return. I met many people who went back to work despite the dollar loss just to keep their skills up and stay connected to their passion. Another valid point, Steve. If you like your job or care about your job, you'll probably go because you love it. It's part of your purpose. It's what Durham was talking about, right? It's part of your purpose. You have a purpose. You want to go. You wind up going. I think you do because you want to. It's your passion. I wouldn't want to hire people that only showed that they liked collecting checks this whole time. Yeah, that's going to be an issue too, right? That's going to be an issue too. When you make that connection and you start hiring more people, do you want to hire someone who's like, yeah, I don't really want your job, just want the check? It's going to be an issue. I agree. It is going to be an issue. Yes. All right. Robert says, hey, Larry, if I told you that we could fill a need at the federal level of government, we should expand an agency without raising taxes or adding any budgets, would you support something like that? Hold on. All right. This is detailed. Hey, Larry, if I told you we could fill a need at the federal level of government, we should expand an agency without raising taxes or adding to any budgets, we support something like that. Under one condition, if the way it was judged and incentivized was not by servicing, but was by success, then yes, right? If it's just, we could service more people, it'll just grow on its own and eventually it'll just get absorbed into and we'll just spend more money. But if you could show me that it'll be incentivized, not by servicing more, but by having less of the problem, yes. If I'm not raising taxes, we're not adding budgets, why wouldn't I want to service more Americans? Of course I would. Absolutely. As long as it's judged not by servicing, but by fixing the problem. Of course I would. Absolutely. Yes. Malik says, I run the Eskimo Libertarian page and I'm thinking of starting a podcast. Thank you for answering my question. Of course, if you want me on your podcast, please let me know. I'm happy to come on if you think it will help. Let's see here. Sir Alfred says, my wife could have stayed collecting unemployment when we were still getting the extra $600. She decided to go back as soon as her job reopened. She made some moves, now is making more than 3 times what she was before COVID. Nicely done. Well, there's the other advantage, right? If you do go back, and this goes back to what Steve was talking about, right? That her employer and the people who work with her now go, oh, she came back. She cares about this job. She cares about this job. Let's reward her for that. I think that's amazing. Good for her. That's a great story. There we go. See, Steve, you're right. I love it. That's great. Yes. So, Steve says most states have waived the requirement to look for work. People just collecting checks with zero expectations. Also true. Yes. Also true. Yes. Joshua says, I'm going to school for electrical engineering and specializing in automation and energy production. Joshua, nicely done, brother. Nicely done. I saw this coming over a decade ago. Automation's coming to replace whatever it can. That way we can spend our time doing other things that we enjoy more and would tap into whatever creative outlet a person has to be even research and development. You're totally correct. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Well done. Yes. So Alfred says, why aren't you running for mayor? Why would I run for mayor? No, thank you. Would I just run for stuff just to run for stuff? No. Look, here's the sad part about most libertarians, like most people in general, but heavily libertarians. Most people are running just for vanity runs. I want to be special. That's a common thing. I don't do that. I run only when I think I can create value. I can create impact. If I can't create value or impact, why would I do that? For me to run for mayor, I would have had to start last summer, and not be working and be crossing the city every day for the past almost year already. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it financially, emotionally, because of COVID. So why would I run for mayor? I couldn't do it. I didn't think I could create the impact that was required, that people would need to make that happen. So I couldn't do it. I only want to do it when I can make impact. If I run for office, you guys saw when I ran for governor. I mean, I wasn't playing around. I literally didn't take a salary for a year and a half. I crossed this entire state more than once. I bugged you all for money and time and energy and everything. And if I'm going to do that again, I got to give you something in return. I got to make impact. I don't want you thinking like, oh, I support that guy, Larry. He didn't do anything. I want you to be like, no, I support that guy. And I'm glad I did. He busted his ass for me. He was out there killing it for me. Yeah, I'm glad I gave him the $10 or $50 or whatever you gave. And I'm glad I was out there waving signs for this guy. I'm glad I was posting his stuff on Facebook. I'm glad he bugged me every week to do more because he busted his ass for me. If I can't do that, I'm not going to run. I got to be able to produce something so that you can go, yeah, glad I supported that guy. That was the right answer. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'd rather just keep working and do this. So that's why I'm not running. So, all right. So Margot says, now private universities are following suit with mandatory vaccinations because of the SUNY/CUNY schools led the way. I saw that coming. And that's a problem, Margot. I saw it coming. The difference is, the difference here is you're going to find they're going to have to start giving money back. And that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. Yes. So I'll see if I can keep going here. Brandon says, 30 trillion bad, but if the USA stops increasing its debt, other countries will surpass. Give it 20 years. So you're saying, Brandon, if we decrease our debt, other countries will surpass us in 20 years. I would say the opposite. I would say if we actually tried to fight our debt, there would be a short-term hit. We'd pay a steep price short-term. I say long-term, 20 years, we'd be in better position. It's like anybody, right? If you personally, Brendan, were in a lot of debt, I don't know what your financial situation is, but for sake of argument, if you're in a lot of debt, if you just keep going into more debt in 20 years, you're really in trouble. But if you take care of that debt now, it's going to suck for you right now, maybe for the next couple of years. But after that, now you're rocking and rolling. So I think I dealt with that in my crash when I got my butt kicked in 2010. Same thing, butt kicked for a couple of years, and now back up again, rocking and rolling again. So I think I would say the opposite is true. You handle your debt, it sucks immediately, but then it gets better, right, over time. I really think that's the case. So, can't they just file for bankruptcy? In theory, yes. In theory, not in practice. I mean, could the U.S. just go, we're going to default? Theoretically, yes, they could, but I don't think they're just going to just blatantly default. What they're going to do is they're going to make some kind of agreement. They're going to reboot the dollar in some way, either through a cryptocurrency or through another fiat currency, one or the other. They'll reboot the dollar and say, oh, by the way, the dollar is now worth this because we say so. And they'll bully the rest of the world into agreeing to that. They might have to negotiate, excuse me, 1 or 2 or 3 reserve currencies to make that happen, not just the dollar. That might happen too. And then we'll reboot. That's how we do it. It'll be a reboot. But could, of course, governments have done it before. They've just said, we're not paying. Sorry. The U.S. could do it, but they're not going to. They're going to do something else instead. The damage done to the United States by just a default is just too high. So I don't think we're going to do that. I hope I answered your question. But again, could. It is physically possible. It's just not realistic. Yes. Excuse me. Javier says, a friend pointed out the Great New Deal and the big spending at the time. He says it helped the economy. Well, yeah, I'll go back to that same I just said. If you pump money into the economy, there's a short-term gain and long-term hurt. I think it's the opposite of what Brennan just said, right? If I handle my debt, there is short-term pain and long-term gain. If I throw spending in, there's short-term gain and long-term pain. And the idea of the inflation we see is part of that long-term pain that we're seeing. So I think your friend's correct. If you pump money in, you get a short-term boost. It does work short-term. Of course it does. It's long-term when you get hammered, right? If I borrow a bunch of money, I can have a great time when I'm borrowing all this money. It's great. Look, I can buy this cool stuff. I got all this money. When I got to pay it back. Oh, yeah. That's not fun. Now I can't go out anymore. Why? Because I got crushing debt. Yeah, not so great. So I think your friend is correct. When you do it, it does help. No question. Long-term pain is the issue. But you will absolutely get a short-term boost. Yeah, of course. Yes. So, Let's see if I can grab this place. Avi says, Larry, I know many people that are retired cops, firemen, and city workers are taking their pensions to cheaper states like Florida, Texas, and South Carolina. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's happening all the time. They're getting free tax money that you and I sweat and pay for. Yep. How is King Cuomo not embarrassed by this? He is. He is. And as if, hold on. It is as if he's good for the red state governors that have no incentive to fight him. The whole situation shows King Cuomo's blissful ignorance. Yes, yes, and yes. Let me cover that real fast. It was so bad recognized by, this one, Governor Scott was governor of Florida. He literally thanked Cuomo. He said, thank you for the money you give us. He's right. All the pensions that people who retire, they go to other states with no income tax, and they head over there, and they spend the tax money that we're paying now to pay their pensions. Yeah, and it sucks. Now, do I blame those people? I don't. We've made New York such a terrible place to live that they can't retire here. My mom couldn't retire here. My mom retired in South Carolina because she just couldn't retire here in New York. She couldn't do it. So she left. And I lost my mom, and my kids lost their grandma because she had to move to South Carolina. New York State is a disaster. It makes it difficult for people to stay here. I can't blame them. I blame us as a state for being such a crappy state. These people want to leave. They should want to stay. They should enjoy New York State. They should love it and say, wow, it's great to retire here. They should spend their pension here in New York State, keeping the economy going. But we're not. We're taking our taxpayer dollars and giving it to Texas and Florida and Arizona, who don't pay state income tax, and boom, it's all there. I agree. This is why in the coming years, I think you're going to find this. In the coming years, you're going to watch Cuomo. I think right after this election, is my gut, he's going to start taxing those. And I think he's going to say something like, if you don't live in New York State or reside in New York State or pay New York State taxes, he's going to cut your pension by a huge chunk and double, triple tax it. I don't know that. California's already doing that. California's taking tax out of it, even though you don't live there anymore. Already happening in California. So you move to Texas, they're taxing you anyway. Sorry, taking your tax anyway. So too bad. Doesn't matter where you live, you're getting taxed. So I think New York will do exactly the same thing. And I think he'll do worse. He'll do things like, if you don't live in New York, you'll lose 25% of your pension. He'll just say it by decree, and no one will stop him. Because if you live in Florida, you don't vote. So the people who are here don't care because you don't vote for them. They don't care. So he's going to take like 25% of your pension and tax it. He's going to do something like that. You'll see. Absolutely. So I hope that was answer your question. But yeah, I already know that already. Yes. So let's see if I can keep going here. Let's see here. Every place I went today, I saw hiring. Wow, John, look at that. Every place. Is that right? Wow. Sam says, about working wages were fine until government investing blew out the cost of education, real estate, healthcare, and consumer staples. Inflation isn't natural. It's government created. Yeah. I hope my interesting pizza story, that was a true story, by the way. I hope that was an interesting story. Think about that's how I found out about inflation. Absolutely. Yes. Excuse me. Draco's Hemp Emporium says, I won't work, just on Amazon because my website didn't have that kind of traffic. Okay. I'm glad, man. If that makes you happy, I hope you're happy. I love that. Jim says, every job is not intended to pay a living wage. Let the market set the wage. I'm not against that. I'm not, right? If workers say, I'm not gonna work unless you pay me X, then that's workers deciding. That's the market deciding. I'm all right with that. Then we all got to pay more. Okay. I'm okay with that. Yes. So Sarah said, I know a guy in publishing. Do you know how many of the 2020 presidential candidates had a book deal lined up? Almost all of them. Wow. I need one too. My book's coming out in July, I think now. I'm hoping. I keep pushing. I hope it'll be July. We'll see. So yes, I hope I get one too. There we go. So Florida also took one of New York's congressional districts. Also true, Joe. Yes, absolutely. Yes, they did. Terrible. Byron says, I think it's as simple as making the government subject to the free market, actually a competitive entity in the marketplace. We could choose between private and public ran businesses. You know what? If that's the step that we need to take to make this happen, Byron, I'm in. I'll take that step. If that's what it takes, yeah, I'm in 100%. I will take that in a heartbeat. If that's the way we can get that to happen, I love that. The Bullfrog 89 says, my childhood place had a slice and can of soda for $1.50. Now it's over $2. Yep. Absolutely. Yes. Joe says $2 for a slice of cheese just north of me. Great tasting slice. Yeah, $2. New York City, it's like $2.50. If I think about that, give or take for a slice. Yes. Joshua says the graphics processor I bought for my computer last year for $379 is now going for $13.99. Wow. That seems like not real. Wow. Crazy. Wow. Joe says I have a $100 bill from 1934. In today's dollars, it's worth $2,000. That $100 bill is still worth $100. Yeah, exactly. That's inflation. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yes. No one says Larry should run for mayor instead of governor. No, incorrect. Loving the Ed Snowden picture in the back. Yes, it is my opinion that he is a hero. He should not only be pardoned, he should be given a Medal of Freedom. That is my opinion. I stand by that. We would not know at all how bad the government is without him. If I were in any way at all in charge of anything federal, I would go out of my way to pardon Snowden and give him the Medal of Freedom without question. Yes. Jan says, great show. Got us all thinking. Thank you. Yes, I'm so glad. Yes, I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. How do we follow Larry Sharpe on Twitter or YouTube? You can. And I would like you also, Joe, to follow the Sharpe Way on Twitter and YouTube, because I might get canceled on one of these. So hopefully I have something else left over in case I get canceled. Byron says the gig economy is actually what is going to elevate the people out of their own holes. Yep. Again, just do it and break free from our rulers. I cannot say yes enough to that one. We should not be destroying the gig economy. We should be encouraging it to the best of our ability. We should absolutely be encouraging it 100%. Yes. Jeff is going to make t-shirts. He says, get Jimmy's job back. I love that. I love that. Yes. Tim says the 90s kicked ass. There were some advantages. Absolutely. Yes, there were some advantages there. 100%. Yes. The Bullfrog says, Reich, they can't rack now. Can he explain why they can't? No. Of course not. Yes. Avi says, Robert Reich is a fool. Yes. I don't know how this guy is on TV and seen as a credible source. Yes. Yes. As soon as he starts talking, I go, oh, okay, this will be dumb. Like, this won't make sense. Look, Avi, at least he wrapped it up with some sense, right? He did like garbage. Okay. Something. Okay. I'll give him that. He gave something at least. It's something. So I don't know. I'm trying to give him the benefit of doubt. He did something decent at least. Yes. Tom says, Larry, I wish you could do a show about all the insurances and taxes that small businesses have to pay to write out a check. Oh, to write a paycheck. Oh, yeah. It's not bad. Might be interesting for people to learn how hard it is to actually pay people. This is an important point, Tom. I agree. Most people, the problem with so many people who are anti-capitalist, who are anti-business, is they always assume that everybody who owns a business is a wealthy fat cat. That's always their assumption. And those people exist. There are absolutely people who have tons of money and tons of businesses and tons of money and who are jerk bosses. Those people exist. Of course they do. That's not the norm. The norm is an individual or family that's trying to make it on their own. And if you've been a small business owner, I'm going to say this because it does matter tremendously for people to understand. If you've been a small business owner, you've had a time in your life where your employees made more than you. That's happened. I know. When I tell you my story about me getting my butt kicked in 2009, I still paid my employees until the end. I wasn't getting paid. They were making more money than I was. I was making nothing. I was going to debt. And they were getting paid. So my employees were making more money than me, and I own the business. And if you are a small business owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where you have to keep paying your people, but there's no money for you. That happens often in small businesses. That's a common problem. And the people are like, well, you just pay people more. Just, you need to have money, blah, 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 blah. I get what you're saying. I understand that. But if you understand what's happening, the government's getting paid. My accountant's getting paid. My insurance reps with an S are getting paid. My HR consultant is getting paid, which is probably outsourced. I can't afford it. They're getting paid. Everybody's getting paid. All my vendors are getting paid. I'm not getting paid. Verizon's getting paid. My landlord's getting paid. I'm not getting paid. That's the reality of small business owners. They're the ones not getting paid. Now, the bigger businesses, of course, there are fat cats. They exist. But a lot of small business owners get their butt kicked. And they're trying to grow something bigger. And if you want to, you can go, well, then they shouldn't be in business. That's a fine. You can say that. And if you're saying that, what you're saying is you don't get to be an entrepreneur unless you're already wealthy. If you want to, you can do that if you want to. But then how can you be mad? How in the world can you be mad at the big business doing so well all the time when all you want to do is keep supporting big business? Because if you act like if you can't afford it, you should just go out, then the only people who will do it will be wealthy. And we have an example of that already. Most people who pick up McDonald's franchises are people who already own McDonald's franchises. That's the most common. McDonald's already gone down that route. So you go, I want to go buy McDonald's. They go, great. Do you have $2 million in cash? You go, well, no. Well, then you can't have one. So who did he give the money to? The McDonald's franchise to. The guy's already got $2 million in cash. He probably has 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 15 McDonald's. There's people who own 50 McDonald's. I'm not joking. That exists. They own 50 McDonald's. 50 McDonald's. The average person who owns a franchise like that in that world makes about $200,000 a year per franchise once you get past a certain amount. It's just money pours in. Just money pours in. That's how it's working. So your point's a very valid one, Tom. If you want to hammer the small business owner and the guy or gal who struggles to open up a small business, you're going to make sure that only the wealthy get bigger and stronger. That's just how it works. It's not the thing that I want. It just isn't. So, yeah. Jan says, we the people, the government could not encourage business to increase wages through tax cuts. People need to hold tight, change their lifestyles, and demand a fair wage. I'm okay with that. I am. I'm okay with that. I don't mind the market dealing with this at all. I don't at all. I think it's totally fine. I totally get it. Let me grab a couple more comments here if I can. You guys give me so many. I appreciate tonight. You guys really did a bunch of stuff. Paula says, hope Trump would pardon Snowden. I did too. I really did, Paula. I was hoping that in the end he'd be like, you know what, I'm going to be libertarian and get rid. I was hoping he would, but he didn't. So, yeah, what are you going to do? It's fine. So, as governor of New York, would you create a sanctuary state for Snowden? Oh, that's not a bad idea. I don't know, can you do that? Maybe. That's an interesting idea, Joe. Do I dare? The problem is, do I then have to have protection for Snowden that the feds don't just come in and take him? And then do I have to have a standoff with feds to save Snowden? That's a tough call. I am totally open to that idea, but I don't know if it's the right call, right? I don't know if that's the right call. Not bad. I got to think about that now. That makes me think. All right, guys, what I always want you to do, I want you to think too. I want you to like, comment, share this with everybody you possibly can. If you like what I'm doing, if it makes sense to you, then do me a favor, support me. Patreon.com/Sharpe Way. Throw me $10 a month so I can keep doing this. Remember, if you click on that link tree in the description, you see all the things we're doing. Sharpe Way clips, podcasts. We've got TikTok now. We got all kind of stuff happening. If you want to see us keep growing so we don't get canceled, support us. $10 a month helps you get more people on board doing more work here. Always like, comment, and share. It always helps no matter what. Please do that. Of course, keep my sponsors happy. That's free. Head over to the link right there. Take the protest and civil disobedience survey. Take that survey. Finish it. And when you're done finishing it, it's about 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes out of your day. Please do that for me. Take it, finish it, and then share it. Makes my sponsors super happy. Everybody's happy. Guys, so thank you so much for this evening. I got my show tomorrow at 12 for those of you who will be around. And then again, I have another show, Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live, tomorrow around 3. And then again, the Sharpe Way tomorrow at 7. I will see you all.